Let me know if this has happened to you. Someone at work starts speaking English fast with a thick accent. Your brain tries to keep up, but instead you're thinking, wait, what is he saying? Why can't I understand him? And why is everybody else nodding along? In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 powerful ways to improve your listening and get used to different English accents at work. Hello everyone, my name's Carrie. I spent 13 years as a conference interpreter working with leaders like Warren Buffett and Ray Dalio. I have handled every kind of accent under pressure: French, Indian, Australian, Southern American English, you name it. So I understand how hard it is when your client, colleague, or even your boss speaks English with a very strong accent. In this video, I'll walk you through 3 practical strategies. First, the mindset shift. Second, a smart and systematic way to use AI tools and YouTube to train your ears. And third, my favorite quick fixes that can help you get used to a strange accent fast. First, let's talk about the most important thing here: mindset. A lot of people approach this problem in a completely wrong way. They think accent comprehension is a separate skill, something they can train independently, but it's not. Accent comprehension is actually built on your foundational listening comprehension. And if your basic or foundational comprehension is very, very weak, which is true for a lot of people, then training for an accent doesn't make any sense at all. Let me give you an example. A lot of people come to me and ask, Carrie, my boss speaks with a Spanish accent. How can I train for that? And I usually ask them a question back. I'll ask them, can you follow a fast-paced meeting in standard American English with no problem? If native speakers are talking fast, back and forth on a very dense topic, can you understand 100%? That's when they pause. They go quiet, and then they will say something like, I don't know, I think I can understand probably 60%. And that is the problem. You need to fix your foundational listening comprehension first, because think about it. If you cannot keep up with fast, clear standard English, how can you possibly handle something that is even harder? Here is something that most people have never thought about. If someone is speaking with a strong accent, it means English isn't their first language. So it's not just pronunciation that's going to trip you up. You are also dealing with grammatical mistakes, word choice issues, unclear sentence structure, and irregular rhythm, and all the other problems that comes with speaking a foreign language. Your brain isn't just listening and processing, it's actually constantly guessing, correcting, and filling the gaps on the fly. So that actually takes more focus, more processing speed, and more mental effort than usual. So if your listening comprehension is already very shaky, it means that following a native speaker at a natural pace is enough to push your brain to 100%, then you cannot handle any accent at all. Any accent added on top is going to throw you off. So I will show you how to train for a specific accent in the next part of the video, but I want to be very clear upfront. You have to improve your foundational listening comprehension first. If you skip that, nothing else will work. And if you want to improve your listening skills, I've made several videos to walk you through exactly how to do that, and I'll put the links down below so you can check them out after watching this video. Okay. Now, let's talk about how to use AI and the internet to systematically train yourself to understand the specific accents. In real life, you probably have to deal with 1 or 2 particular accents a lot at work. Maybe it's your boss, maybe it's your client, maybe it's your team. So if that's the case, I think it's a really smart investment to train for that particular accent. I used to do it in the hard way when I was an interpreter because there were no tools, there were no AI. I had to figure that out by ear. But now we have AI, and there is a faster method I've tested with some of my students. The first step is to use ChatGPT to do pattern recognition. You want to get a clear picture of what's different about that accent, how they pronounce certain words, how they change the rhythm, and what makes it hard for you to follow. Here is a prompt you can use. I will put the whole prompt in the comment section so that you can copy, paste, and use it right away. Say this to ChatGPT. I'm having trouble understanding Australian English. Can you list common pronunciation and rhythm patterns in Australian accent that might make comprehension difficult for non-native speakers like me? Please give specific examples and explain how they differ from American English. And then ChatGPT will give you a breakdown. For example, it might tell you that Australians often flatten vowels and turn the I into a sound like oi. So night become noit. They might drop the R sound, so car becomes ka, and they tend to use a lot of rising intonation at the end of the sentences, even though they're not asking a question. So reading that breakdown, reading that list alone is very helpful because a lot of these things you probably picked up unconsciously, but now they're named. You know exactly what the patterns are. And once you can recognize the pattern, you can start predicting the pattern. Step 2 is to go to YouTube. Just search Australian accent and you will find a ton of videos, especially from accent coaches who are teaching people how to speak an Australian accent. And you need to pick about 2 to 3 videos to watch. Why? Because these videos are basically reverse engineering the accent. It means that they are breaking down the specific components of how the accent is actually built, like pronunciation, rhythm, intonation, even certain speaking habits or preferences. So instead of just guessing or trying to get used to the accent through a lot of exposure, you are now seeing the building blocks of how that accent works. And it makes so much easier for your brain to recognize the pattern and fill in the gaps when you hear it in real time. Number 3, train your ear. Now you've learned the patterns, you need to go ahead and listen to real Australians speak. For example, you can find Australian YouTubers, Australian interviews, Australian business speakers. Turn on the subtitles and test yourself. Can you keep up? Can you hear the oi sound when they say night? This method won't solve your problem overnight, but if you do it consistently for about 2 to 3 weeks, you will notice a huge difference in your ability to understand that particular accent.
11月20号将会有一场免费的公开课，叫做3招快速提升职场英文沟通力。这堂课是专门为在职场当中需要用英文沟通的同学准备的。如果说你在职场里用英文进行 small talk， 用英文做 presentation， 用英文做 briefing pitch， 以及你有英文说不出、听不懂或者是说不好的3大问题，那我诚挚的邀请你来11月20号的公开课。具体如何报名，请看视频下方留言，我们公开课上见。
Now, the third part is my favorite because it's what I relied on the most when I was interpreting in high-stake meetings. Sometimes I'll walk into a meeting and then realize, oh no, the client has a very thick Scottish accent and I don't really understand him 100%, and I have to adapt to that accent very fast. Over the years, I found 2 short-term strategies that work extremely well. I've used them myself and I've taught them to my students. The first one is actually small talk. Small talk is a controlled conversation. You can sort of predict what's coming from the other person. When you ask the other person, how are you? How was your trip? How was your day? You can pretty much predict what the person might say. This makes it very useful for something we've already talked about, which is pattern recognition. When you are trying to understand an unfamiliar accent, the fastest way to do it is to compare what you expected to hear with what you actually hear. And you cannot do that very well if the conversation is all over the place. But with small talk, you are kind of in control. You ask a question and you already have a rough idea what's coming next. And the more small talk you do, the more data your brain gets. The more data it gets, the better recognition it can build. And that's why when I detect somebody has a thick accent, I never avoid them. I actually talk more. I do more small talk. I know this is very counterintuitive, but it works very well. So one day, one of my students texted me. She said, Carrie, one of my bosses came to visit and he has a very strong Southern American accent. I don't understand him at all. So when I see him walking down the hallway, I just turn around and avoid him. So I gave her this suggestion. I said, go talk to him. Do more small talk, not less. You need to prepare a few good questions and then just go for it. She followed my advice. The next day, she texted me and said, Carrie, oh my God, I can't believe this actually worked so well. I'm shocked. I can now understand him like 90%. His accent is no longer a problem and we had a great time talking with one another. The second strategy is asking more clarification questions. I know you probably don't like doing this, but it's actually actually one of the fastest way for you to understand an unfamiliar accent. First, let me tell you something that you might not know. You are probably not the only person who is confused by that accent. Thick accents are very, very hard, even for many native speakers. I have been in a lot of meetings where I understand the accent or what's being said, but the native speakers were kind of lost. They were like, what is this person talking about? So don't be afraid to ask, and people will be very thankful if you ask for clarification. Second, I want to walk you through what really happens when you ask a question. Let's say that you didn't understand a person with a thick accent and you ask for a clarification, you ask for a paraphrase. Now your brain gets a second version of the same message, and you can compare what you thought the person said with how they rephrased or clarified it. This is called real-time calibration. You are updating your understanding of how the person speaks. You're building mental models, and now you know, oh, when he make that sound, it's actually this sound. Oh, this is how he pronounced this particular word, and this is how he actually say sentences. So this is real-time feedback that can help you find the pattern in their speech and get used to that accent very, very fast. And here is a bonus benefit. Asking questions shows that you are actually engaged. The only way people know that you are actively listening is if you ask some questions or give some kind of feedback. Let me quickly recap. Do more small talk and ask clarification questions are two of the fastest ways for you to get used to somebody's accent. But like I said earlier, if your basic listening comprehension is very, very shaky, you really need to work on that first, because that is the foundation. Without that, training for a particular accent is just pointless. Alright, that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to learn how to improve your listening, you can watch this video.